Chapter 126, Alerting the Old Monsters. Meanwhile, Hubo did not have such a refined and elegant state of mind. On the contrary, he felt a colossal pressure, and beads of cold sweat continuously rolled down his forehead. Although Liu Yutong was as agile as a deity, and her movements were so heartbreakingly beautiful, she was also like a female goddess of battle. The pressure emanating from her was so high that all his nerves were tensed. He almost felt like he wanted to throw away his sword and surrender. But if he were to give up so easily in front of so many eyes, he would definitely be harshly scolded by the elders of his clan upon his return. He gave a huge shout, and his sword quivered at a quick rhythm as he used his strongest martial arts technique, Cloud-Slashing Sword. This was a secret art of the Hu clan and was also a black-grade martial arts technique, but was only a black-grade low-level martial arts technique. The Hu clan, of course, also had black-grade mid-level martial arts techniques, but those were the core secret treasures of the Hu clan. How could a junior that had just broken through to Gushing Spring tier recently be allowed to learn these techniques? If one wanted to learn black-grade mid-level martial arts techniques, one would have to be at least in Spiritual Ocean tier and prove that one was fully loyal to the clan, ensuring no possibility of betrayal. Hong! The two of them once again clashed together, and the environment immediately became explosive and fiery. Even a few of the old monsters had come out, observing the battle with a smile, hands behind their backs. Though this level of battle in their eyes was like a child's game, Liu Yutong and Hu Bo were both likely to reach their level in the future. So naturally, their attention was attracted. The Cloud-Slashing Sword technique was a swift and fierce technique. It would even be able to cut the clouds floating in the sky in half. Thus, it was a very overbearing sword technique. On the other hand, the Spring Rain Sword technique was like a gust of wind and transforming into rain, silently nurturing the earth, seeming very peaceful and beautiful. An extremely gentle technique. But why was the Spring Rain Sword technique a black-grade high-level martial arts technique then? Although the rain in spring was very gentle, but at the same time, it could also contain killing intent. Shua, shua, shua. Uncountable droplets of rain flew and danced in the air, and actually transformed into uncountable number of tiny needles, as if they were sharp swords that had shrunk an uncountable number of times. They pierced into the pores of Hubo's skin and went directly into his veins. These droplets of rain were all created by the Spring Rain Sword technique, and contained Liu Yutong's own origin power. Once they entered into Hubo's veins, they naturally contained a very strong destructive effect. They had only exchanged 3 moves, and Hubo's battle prowess took a drastic drop. He was completely dominated by Liu Yutong. Under the conditions where power was almost equal on both sides, the one who had the advantage in martial arts technique would naturally gain the upper hand. What more when this was a high-level martial arts technique dominating a low-level martial arts technique? The gap between the two was not just a little bit. Ling Han nodded slightly. Yutong truly was quite talented. She had already managed to grasp the concept behind the Spring Rain Sword technique. Although this was also in some part due to his guidance, it also proved that Liu Yutong had quite a high talent in the field of martial arts. Being able to move the spiritual chi in their surroundings and transform it into a real, solid attack, that was the strongest advantage of a black-grade martial arts technique. This can't be right. Even though Hubo cannot be considered to be part of the strongest elite in the younger generation of the Imperial City, he can definitely fit into the 3rd class and definitely can be named as a well-known figure. How is it that he is so quickly at a disadvantage? It's not that Liu Yutong is so much stronger than him, but that her sword technique is much too scary, using softness total counter strength. It's a very mysterious sword technique. And if it was me against her, unless my power was strong enough to completely overwhelm her, I would be absolutely under her control because of this sword technique. Gods, what sword technique is that? The youths continued to discuss among themselves, and more old monsters were attracted to the commotion happening here. Their eyes were completely focused on Liu Yutong. The longer they watched her, the more anxious their expressions became, and the more of a very deep dread they contained. Honestly speaking, if they suppressed their power to about the same as Lu Yutong's current level, they would most probably only manage to achieve a tie in front of this sword technique. And this was still taking into account their abundant battle experience. How was this possible? They all had their own black-grade mid-level martial arts technique, as well as battle experience that exceeded Lu Yutong by who knew how many times. Yet if they battled with her on the same level, they could only manage a tie with Lu Yutong? Black-grade high-level martial arts technique. The old monsters all exchanged a look and mouthed these 6 words before they all turned their eyes towards the old monster from the Liu clan. They all only had black-grade mid-level martial arts technique, so there was a fine balance of power among all the 8 great clans. Yet now the Liu clan had a black-grade high-level martial arts technique, which naturally meant that this fine balance was broken. Even if the old monster of the Liu clan was in spiritual pedestal tier, he still started to sweat when he became the sudden focus of the attention of so many others of the same cultivation level. He began to rebuke Lu Yutong in his thoughts. Lu Yutong managed to learn such a powerful martial arts technique, yet did not save it as a trump card, and actually used it in front of so many people. Wouldn't that be trying to attract others to covet this sword technique? He wanted to claim that the Liu clan did not possess this sword technique, but also knew that the other old monsters would not believe him. Since Lu Yutong knew this sword technique, then wouldn't that be equivalent to the Liu clan also knowing this sword technique? But he was also extremely curious. Where had Lu Yutong learnt this sword technique from? Lu Yutong gave a light shout, and as she brandished her sword, the spring rain sword technique was becoming more and more well practiced. It was a martial arts technique after all, and the main purpose of martial arts technique was to be used for battle, so naturally she could only grasp the essence of the sword technique in true battle. The more she grasped of the essence of the spring rain sword technique, the more she looked as light as a deity. In the eyes of the audience, it was as if she was the fairy of the Jade Lake, dancing gracefully. As her sword danced, the rain droplets of spring danced with her continuously, creating a scene so beautiful it could cause suffocation. All the young men there revealed expressions of captivation. There was even a number of people who were no longer young, yet could feel their hearts wavering, as if they had returned to their youth when they would be pursuing beautiful sights and sounds, horses and dogs. Enough! The old monster from the Hu clan spoke, extending a hand. His origin power transformed into a giant palm that separated Lu Yutong and Hubo. This is just a spar. Take care not to overdo it. Let's just consider this as a tie. Hearing these words, all the others were snorting in derision in their thoughts. What do you mean by a tie? It would take at most another 3 moves, and Hubo would definitely be harshly defeated. But who dared to talk back against a spiritual pedestal tier warrior so publicly? Unless someone thought they had lived for too long and would like to end their life prematurely? Liu Yutong felt very regretful. She did not intend to defeat Hubo, but rather to teach him a good lesson he would remember strongly. Hubo stepped back, but there was confusion on his face. He did not understand why Liu Yutong had become so strong. And when he saw that Liu Yutong had stepped back and stood beside Ling Han, a terrifying killing intent rose up within his eyes. This brat was actually still pestering Liu Yutong. How hateful! Damn it! The stronger Liu Yutong was, and the more terrifying the talent in martial arts she displayed, the more he wanted to make this genius girl his. So naturally, he could not bear to see her to be so close to any man. He was not the only one. When the young men in the area all saw this, they all looked at Ling Han with very unfriendly gazes. It was only now that they discovered that there was not only one beauty by Ling Han's side. There was another beauty that was completely not beneath Liu Yutong by his side. Li Si Chan. Gods, the twin pearls of the imperial city that were so famous have all become his women? Damn, this bastard! And within this one instant, Ling Han had become public enemy number 1. Any of them who had the slightest bit of interest in Liu Yutong or Li Si Chan all considered Ling Han to be their rival. Moreover, The admirers of these two girls were enough to queue up in a line that could encircle the imperial city 3 times, so the number of new enemies Ling Han had gotten could be imagined. And this was only the younger generation of the 8 great clans and the imperial family. Brother Ling, I never thought you would have arrived so early. The third imperial prince stepped out and gave Ling Han a friendly smile. He was a man that was meant for great things, so he would of course not lose himself in the beauty of women. Hey, Ling Han laughed and said, can we set off now? He had already waited for quite a few days and could no longer wait to find out the secrets hidden at the source of the underground river.